Hey guys, this is Adam from the Rescue Michigan Coalition, and in this video, I am going to clear the air about something that happened on our weekly show this past Sunday. You probably know what I'm talking about. We had a candidate on, RJ Regan, who made a comment and has since been falsely accused by the media of saying what was actually its exact, complete, and total opposite. RJ Regan said on the show that stealing an election is as intolerable as rape. As intolerable as rape. The media reported the complete opposite. In fact, the lies began even later on that show when trolls in the audience began to allege that he had said that rape was something that women should lie back and take. And that was, of course, the exact opposite. He said, we don't roll that way. We don't condone that. But the lies continued very quickly, spread most likely by the DeVosses, their political arm, the Michigan Freedom Fund, which spent a great deal of money supporting his opponent, were the first ones out to issue a denunciation and to say he's unfit for office and how dare he even represent anyone in Lansing, and on it went. And of course, now that false story has since gone not just national, but even international. It's been covered by publications in the UK and probably elsewhere. Now, let me say, the way that Regan made this comment was awkward and easily susceptible to being interpreted incorrectly or perhaps even intentionally falsely. And that can happen when anyone is speaking extemporaneously about something, because words just sometimes don't come out right. It was an analogy he reached for out of nowhere. Certainly it was inartful, but I think the reason why he came to it is to convey the extremity of his seriousness about not tolerating a stolen election. Now, regardless of your opinion about the 2020 election, and I am not taking a position on that in this video, he is entitled to his. And what he said was to compare a woman lying back and taking rape. In fact, he used his daughters in the analogy, and again, inartful, but extemporaneous, and said, we do not roll that way. The media reported that as the complete opposite of what it was. But now he is being thrown under the bus by the DeVosses, by Republican leadership. State Chairman Ron Weiser issued a denouncement. The Kent County Republican Party issued a denouncement. I'm sure they can find many others who have done the same. Contrast that, however, with what they did when State Representative Brian Posthumus got drunk, got into a car, and rolled it over, crashing through a mailbox, in which, luckily, nobody was killed. The Christian Coalition honored him, the Kent County GOP honored him, and they defended him. Because Brian Posthumus is political royalty in Michigan. His father was lieutenant governor. His sister was a state rep and is now a clerk in Kent County. The Kent County clerk, in fact. It's interesting how, with certain candidates, the Republicans have absolutely no hesitation in throwing them under the bus, compared to candidates that they will defend to the hilt. And until recently, that standard was, if you are the Republican nominee, the party will support and defend you come hell or high water. And why would that be? Because when a scandal comes out against the candidate, and especially if it's a false scandal that can't be addressed, or that can be addressed, excuse me, it damages the entire ticket. So, for example, if you don't like the nominee for President of the United States, but you are a state chair, a county chair, a governor who's in the same party, or Speaker of the House of the same party, your duty is to defend your candidate, to defend your ticket. And yet, when Donald J. Trump became the Republican nominee in 2016, suddenly that rule book was thrown away. Suddenly it was okay for Governor Rick Snyder to refuse to endorse him. Suddenly it was okay for Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, to refuse to endorse him. Suddenly, all that talk about how after the primaries we have to unify went out the window. And suddenly water started rolling upwards. So it makes an important contrast when a candidate says something and it's being completely, falsely, intentionally misstated by the media. And make no mistake, they know it was false because they know, number one, it's absolutely absurd on its face to think that any father would ever condone the rape of his daughters. And number two, because it was not what he said. He said the complete opposite. He said, we do not take it. To his credit, Regan has not apologized. I have heard he's going to put out some sort of statement today. I don't know what that will be. We will see how he handles it. But the notion that he condoned rape is absurd, and the media continues to take it to absurd levels. In fact, when I was being interviewed by Channel 7 News, the reporter actually asked me, do you think it's ever appropriate to compare anything to rape? Is it ever appropriate to use rape in an analogy? And I responded, yeah, people do that all the time. We say we've been raped by the tax collector. We say a football team got raped on the field. We even sometimes say I had to take it up the you-know-what. Those are rape analogies. They didn't run that segment, of course. You might say, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has been raping our state for the past 3 years. That's fine. Adults can use analogies. In fact, some of you may recall, in 2012, there was a Republican nominee for U.S. Senate named Todd Akin. And Akin, like Regan, made a statement, unfortunately worded. He was asked about abortion in the case of rape and incest, and should that be illegal? And Akin clumsily said, well, if it's a legitimate rape. Now, the media, of course, played that to the nth degree, and there was all kinds of talk about what is legitimate rape and so on and so forth. But of course, if you think about it, he had an actual point. Because if rape was illegal except in the cases of rape and incest, you would have tons of false allegations of rape from women that wanted to have abortions and would have no hesitation in throwing their former lovers in jail. That would happen. So that's what Todd Akin was trying to say. But of course, Republicans threw him under the bus. They did not defend him. And as a result, we had Senator Claire McCaskill representing the state of Missouri for the next 6 years. And when Todd Akin lost his race, what did Jon Stewart say on The Daily Show? He said he got legitimately raped by Claire McCaskill. Is that a good enough rape analogy for you? So here we are. I don't know what Brian Regan will say about this incident. It sounds like he's going to put out some kind of statement today. My advice to him is to not apologize, to say the media has been lying, and to say all of the people who have been spreading these false allegations owe me a retraction and an apology. And I would demand that of the Michigan Freedom Fund. I would demand that of the state chair. I would demand that of the county chair. And I would go all out and say, you have completely lied about me. You have defamed me. Unfortunately, in this world, we don't have good legal options for defamation. It's almost impossible with any public figure, no matter what. And secondly, they have plausible deniability because of the way that he said it. It was a little, they cropped the sentence, but they didn't change the sentence altogether. They cropped off that's not how we roll. At least most of the media did. And a lot of people only ever see the headlines. You know, I was talking to somebody I knew from Illinois, and I'd mentioned it, and she said, oh, is that the guy who said that it's okay, you should stand back and be raped? And I said, yeah, but that was the complete opposite of what he actually said. And she says, oh, I only saw the headlines. Yeah, that's all people see oftentimes is the headlines. And Drudge readers saw it. Detroit Free Press readers saw it. Tons of people saw these false, misleading headlines. He should go on attack and say, this is why nobody trusts the media, because they lie about everything. But I don't know what he's going to say. Maybe he will dig his own grave. Maybe he will exonerate himself. My recommendation to him is to recruit as many female campaign supporters as possible and put them front and center and have them defend him and them attack the media as well. What should the Republican Party do about this? They've already done themselves a great deal of damage in doing this. They have damaged their brand. They have helped Gretchen Whitmer. They have helped Dana Nessel. They have helped Jocelyn Benson. And they have helped the Democrats' narrative across the state by conceding to the left's false statements before they even verified them. If I were them, I would issue a retraction and say, I apologize for buying into the media's lies about Robert Regan before I verified them. Now that I've found out that he did not condone rape, but quite the opposite, vocally opposed it, shame on the media for lying. That's what I would do. Now, what should you do? I think the thing that you need to do is, number one, go out there and recruit precinct delegates who will replace the people who were the first to roll over when the left lied about RJ Regan. Because they have shown that all that nonsense about party unity is absolute garbage. They will attack, defame, and destroy anybody running for office that doesn't fit their party line. They did it to Trump. They did it to Regan. And there should be a political price for their acquiescence to the left's false narrative. Now, I am aware of certain other things Regan has said and been alleged to say. For example, in early 2021, he apparently endorsed QAnon, a government-controlled, created disinformation campaign. I should say, all I ever said was that people should do their own research and do their own homework. And once again, the media attacks on me are misleading. And as for everything else, I can't comment on everything else. He's his own candidate. He can have his opinion about Russia and Ukraine and COVID and everything else. There again, I think he was simply being careless. To say we have a false war in Ukraine, well, there is obviously a war going on in Ukraine, but the falseness lies in the media's explanation for the motives for it and for what created it. Obviously, no one thinks that COVID is fake, but it is legitimate to question how much government policy done in the name of COVID was actually done in the name of destroying civil liberties, destroying communities, destroying churches, destroying the middle class. That is a legitimate question. So maybe he needs to clarify his positions on some of these things as well. And then he needs to move on and remind voters what his opponent stands for and what the Democrats all stand for. Lockdowns, mandates, destroying the middle class, critical racist theory, and all the rest. That gas prices are skyrocketing because of their policies, that they can't pay their bills because of their policies, that their children are now learning disabled because they were forced not to be able to see people's faces for the first 2 years of their lives. And I hope that the people in his district, the Republicans, the conservative grassroots leaders, stand up and defend him and point out that this is why nobody should ever trust the mass media. No one should ever trust the Democrats, because they are liars. And they will tell any lie, no matter how big or small, because that is the only way they ever win, is by lying. So there you go, folks. If you're hoping for an apology from us, sorry. I'm not giving it to you. By the way, there was some people, some trolls mostly, saying, well, you had these two women on your show, and one of them said the comments were shameful, and the other said nothing really, and didn't seem to have a problem with them. And who's right? I say they're both right. In the moment, the comments certainly were, they sounded awful. And again, they were made extemporaneously, but he did not condone rape. He opposed it. So there was nothing to be called shameful. But in the moment, and as Amber Harris is a professional political operative, her job is to point out when someone says something inartful, potentially damaging, and neither of them owe anybody an apology. So there you go, folks. Thank you, trolls, for all the publicity that you've given our organization. We are not on the ballot, so it's been nothing but sunshine and roses for us. Thank you for promoting our event that we mentioned in our podcast. Thank you for boosting our traffic to our website. I understand some of you are getting banned from our Facebook page for the things you're saying. Well, maybe you just don't say, maybe if you can't possibly restrain yourself and not be vulgar, because you're vulgar people. You're all terrible people, and you all know it. You might get banned, because frankly, we don't need our audience exposed to that level of indecency, that level of vulgarity. Keep that amongst your lousy, miserable selves. Until next time, for everybody else, as always, thanks for all you guys do for liberty. Peace.